It was just past 1 in the morning when the silence over a quiet Russian river valley was broken by a low, mechanical hum. At first, locals thought it might be an ordinary utility drone or the echo of a distant truck. But the sound grew sharper, cutting through the stillness of the night. Flying low, barely above the tree line, a compact unmanned aerial vehicle glided toward its target. The target was not a military convoy, not an airfield, not even a weapons depot. It was a bridge, a massive, decades-old concrete and steel structure spanning the river, vital for Russian supply lines. Through this bridge flowed the lifeblood of Moscow's war effort in the sector. Columns of fuel tankers, trucks loaded with shells, armored vehicles heading to reinforce the front. Without it, entire divisions would be stranded. Destroying this crossing would be equivalent to severing an artery in a human body. On the surface, the bridge seemed invincible. Thick supports driven deep into the riverbed, reinforced decking, and guard posts at both ends made it appear safe from a small drone strike. But Ukrainian intelligence had uncovered a hidden weakness. Beneath the bridge, tucked inside steel casings, lay a chain of 30 anti-tank mines installed by Russian engineers. These explosives had been wired together, intended as a last-ditch demolition system. If the Russian army ever needed to retreat, they could blow their own bridge to deny it to advancing forces. What the Russians had not anticipated was that the same explosives could be used against them. Ukrainian reconnaissance drones had mapped the entire structure, detecting the mines with precision instruments and confirming their layout with thermal and magnetic scans. A bold plan was formed. Rather than wasting a large missile to destroy the bridge, Ukraine would use Russia's own hidden charges. One small drone would trigger a chain reaction, turning Moscow's precaution into its downfall. In a command post hundreds of kilometers away, operators prepared the mission. The chosen drone was lightweight, agile, and deadly precise. It carried not a massive bomb, but a shaped charge weighing less than 4 kilograms, just enough to press a single detonator plate. The goal was not brute force, but surgical precision. If it worked, all 30 mines would ignite in sequence, collapsing the bridge in under a minute. The stage was set. Operators watched their screens as the drone crossed into Russian airspace. Electronic warfare systems crackled around it, jammers trying to blind or cut the signal. But Ukrainian engineers had anticipated this, switching frequencies and using hardened military-grade controls. Every meter brought the drone closer to history. The night was still calm. The bridge stood tall and silent, its steel girders glinting faintly under the moonlight. But within the next 18 minutes, it would vanish from the landscape, not from the power of a missile, but from the brilliance of turning the enemy's own trap against him. The brilliance of the operation lay not in raw firepower, but in planning. Ukrainian strategists understood that a traditional missile strike against the bridge would be expensive, risky, and potentially ineffective. Russian anti-air defenses in the region were thick, and the bridge's sheer size meant even a direct missile hit might only scar it. Instead, Kiev's planners turned to ingenuity and to the hidden mines buried by Russia itself. Reconnaissance and discovery. Weeks before the attack, Ukrainian reconnaissance drones surveyed the area. At first, their mission was routine: map supply routes, monitor convoy patterns, and identify potential weak points. But the surveillance teams noticed unusual anomalies beneath the bridge structure: faint signatures on magnetic scans, and irregular heat points during nighttime thermal imaging. Engineers recognized these as telltale signs of buried explosives. Comparing the data with archived intelligence revealed a pattern. Russia had rigged similar bridges before, always with linked anti-tank mines wired into a chain system. This was their safety net, but also their vulnerability. Choosing the weapon, rather than deploying costly long-range missiles, Ukraine selected a small, highly maneuverable drone, nicknamed Vampire. Built from lightweight carbon fiber, it could evade radar more easily than larger UAVs. Importantly, it carried a shaped charge of just 3.6 kilograms, not designed to demolish the bridge directly, but to strike the precise trigger plate of one mine. That one detonation would set off the chain, unleashing the power of all 30 mines at once. Overcoming electronic warfare. The Russians weren't careless. Near the bridge, they had positioned electronic warfare systems broadcasting interference at 500 megahertz, powerful enough to scramble the common 5.8 gigahertz control links most drones use. To counter this, Ukrainian engineers turned to hardened frequencies, the military-grade 900 megahertz LoRa system. Resistant to jamming, it ensured that the pilot could maintain control even through thick electronic noise. Still, redundancy was built in. If jamming grew too intense, the drone's autopilot was programmed to follow a trajectory blind, climbing and striking the target even without human guidance. The diversion. But the plan required one more layer: distraction. Ukrainian operators prepared a decoy drone, called Signbet, designed to be noisy and obvious. Its mission was simple: to fly straight across the bridge, luring Russian gunners into firing wildly. The moment tracers lit the sky, the real attacker would approach low and silent, hugging the underside beams, invisible amid the chaos. Timing the strike. Finally, timing was everything. Intelligence revealed that a Russian convoy, 8 fuel tankers and 4 trucks loaded with artillery shells, was scheduled to cross the bridge less than an hour after the operation window. Striking before the convoy arrived would not only destroy the crossing, but trap critical supplies on the wrong side of the river, amplifying the damage tenfold. With every piece in place, reconnaissance data, hardened signals, a decoy to distract, and precision drone armed with the smallest yet deadliest of charges, Operation Bridge Collapse was ready. The objective was not to fight with overwhelming force, but to let Russia's own precautions become the weapon of its undoing. The night was utterly still. The bridge loomed across the river, massive and quiet, unaware of the fate that awaited it. At 1:32 a.m., the decoy drone, BT, broke the silence. Loud, fast, and deliberately obvious, it flew directly across the deck of the bridge. Russian sentries reacted instantly. Machine guns rattled. Tracers ripped through the air, and spotlights crisscrossed the riverbank. All eyes were fixed on the noisy intruder. And in that moment of chaos, the real attacker made its approach. The Vampire UAV, silent and nearly invisible, glided low, hugging the shadow beams of the bridge's underside. From the Ukrainian control station, the pilot's screen flickered with static as Russian jammers fought to block the signal. But the hardened 900 megahertz link held steady. With delicate movements, the drone climbed along the metal frame until its camera fixed on the first mine's detonator plate. The operator steadied his breath. The shaped charge pressed gently against the steel trigger. There was a pause, a single second that felt like an eternity. Then a flash. The first mine exploded with a deafening roar, sending a shockwave rippling across the river. Instantly, the second mine ignited, then the third, then the fourth. The chain reaction raced down the length of the bridge like a string of firecrackers, each detonation amplifying the destruction. Concrete slabs weighing dozens of tons lifted into the air before shattering into fragments. Massive steel beams twisted like paper, wrenched apart by the force of 30 synchronized blasts. The bridge's central span, 20 meters long, rose in a plume of fire before collapsing into the river with a crash that shook the valley. For a brief moment, the night turned to day. Flames and sparks shot skyward, illuminating the stunned faces of Russian soldiers on the banks. The ground shook violently. Windows shattered in nearby villages, and birds erupted from the tree-line in terrified swarms. When the smoke began to clear, the bridge was gone. Entire sections had vanished beneath the river's surface, swallowed by black water now boiling with debris. Concrete pylons leaned at broken angles, rebar jutted like broken bones, and slabs weighing 45 tons each lay scattered in the current, and it had all taken just 18 minutes. The impossible had happened. A bridge built to last decades had been erased not by a missile barrage or bomber strike, but by a single drone carrying less than 4 kilograms of explosive and Russia's own hidden mines. When the dust settled, the devastation revealed itself in full. The bridge lay in ruins, nothing more than twisted metal and shattered concrete scattered across the riverbed. But for Russia, the disaster wasn't limited to the structure itself. The timing was catastrophic. Just 11 kilometers from the blast zone, a massive convoy of supply trucks was making its way toward the crossing. 8 fuel tankers and 4 heavy vehicles loaded with artillery shells were scheduled to roll across the bridge within the hour. Instead, they found themselves halted in the darkness, engines idling, drivers staring in disbelief at the inferno on the horizon. Radios buzz with confusion, but jamming from Ukrainian side made communications patchy and unreliable. Orders contradicted each other. Some officers demanded the convoy push forward to assess the damage. Others barked commands to retreat immediately before Ukrainian artillery zeroed in. The paralysis was costly. Every minute stranded left those tankers vulnerable. Reconnaissance drones hovered silently above, tracking the stalled vehicles. Ukrainian artillery did not fire immediately. The bridge was already the greater victory. But the psychological effect of knowing they were visible, exposed, and unable to move was devastating for the Russian crews. Back at Russian command posts, the situation unraveled. Officers who had relied on the bridge as a permanent fixture suddenly faced a logistical nightmare. Alternative routes existed, but they were longer, weaker, and less secure. The nearest usable crossing was over 90 kilometers away, winding through swampy terrain prone to flooding, and well within range of Ukrainian artillery and sabotage groups. What had once been a 2-hour resupply run could now take days. Attempts to repair the bridge began within hours. Russian engineers were rushed to the site, bringing pontoon sections and heavy cranes. But when they arrived, the reality was grim. Massive slabs of concrete weighing up to 48 tons each had plunged deep into the river. Extracting them would require equipment that simply wasn't available in the region. Even temporary pontoons were impossible to anchor properly, with jagged debris jutting in every direction. And above it all, the ever-present buzz of Ukrainian drones made the work nearly suicidal. Every time engineers tried to set up equipment, reconnaissance UAVs circled overhead, forcing them to scatter for cover. They knew that at any moment, a loitering munition could strike. The result was paralysis. Repair crews sat idle, convoys rerouted, and an entire sector's logistics collapsed overnight. For Moscow, the loss of the bridge was more than a tactical setback. It was a public humiliation. Proof that even deep inside what was thought to be secure territory, Ukraine could strike with precision and leave devastation that Russia's vast resources could not quickly undo.